have contact with my mom and sister. I do. I'm actually still very close to my mother. But I will be honest with you, there were several years, like this accident, the reason why I say that, there were consequences from what happened with this shooting, because in a way, this accident put such a strain on my relationship with my mother and my sister that I feel like it would never really be the same again after that. I feel like there were lots of things, there was lots of love that my mother and sister and I could have shared, could have had, that we were not going to be able to have because of this accident. I know for a fact that my sister had a lot of resentment about the things that the lifestyle that she was forced to lead. She told me years later that she was very jealous of me in a way because all this attention was focused on me, and that she never got to kind of even be a child because it was always, oh, you're this guy, you're Jerome's sister. Everybody in the neighborhood knew what happened to me. And so she felt like she always had to live in my shadow for all these years. And so it caused resentment. To this day, my sister and I still are not very close, and it's really mainly because of what happened. My mother and I, after years of kind of going back and forth with this kind of tension, have come to a very comfortable place these last few years where we can actually, sit down with each other and kind of laugh about some of the things that happened. But it'll never be the same, It's kind of one of those things that I see other loving families, I see my friends with loving families and who go do, wonderful, loving family stuff. And I know that we'll never be that way ourselves. It's because of what happened for the most part. So yeah, we get along. My sister and I, not so much, but my mother and I have a strong, healthy love for one another. And again, despite the fact that I think my mother did some things that I wouldn't do as a parent, I hold her in the highest regard. She's one of the people I respect most in this world because I think that, what she was able to accomplish with very little, and coming from very difficult circumstances herself, was amazing. And she raised me in a way that, to this day, I still think I'm a strong beneficiary of the fact that she always wanted what was best for me. Hey, weren't you back there before?
Yeah. If you could meet your shooter, what would you say to him?
Okay, so if I could meet my shooter, what would I say to him? This is something that I talk about in the book. Actually, I talk about it a lot. The whole book, the reason why I called the book Dear Marcus, A Letter to the Man Who Shot Me, is because I thought, hey, I believe in all honesty, I never will meet this person. Like, I'm not even sure they're still alive today. I doubt it. And if they are, I doubt they know who I am. Like, I doubt, if tomorrow I was on Oprah, even, I doubt that person could say, hey, that's the kid I did that to. Because I think the reality is that person didn't know who I was. They were probably drunk or high themselves. So I'm resolved to the fact that I will never meet this person. But if I could, it's kind of like I said earlier, I would want them to know, hey, what you did had this effect on me. It had kind of a negative effect on my family. And, there were things I wanted to do in my life. There were dreams I had. I thought that I was very good in sports. I also liked entertaining. I liked singing, and I liked dancing. I thought, hey, maybe I could be like one of these Broadway stars someday. I had dreams of maybe being perhaps a Broadway actor or a tap dancer. I was taking ballet classes. So there were lots of things that I dreamed of for myself that I would never have because of it. And so I want them to know, you cut short some of my dreams. You caused my life to take a turn that I would rather it didn't take. But at the same time, my life has turned out very well, and I don't want you to hate yourself. I don't want you to beat yourself up over this. I don't want you to ever feel like you're a lousy person. I would hope that they would go on to live a full, constructive life, and but I want them to keep in mind what happened. If they had kids, I would want them to share it with their kids. But I would want them to know that I don't hate you. I'm not even mad at you. But what you did had an effect on me. And keep in mind that everything that you do has a consequence for someone else.
So even after all these things, all these negative things that this accident has done to you, how has this helped you, like, appreciate life or live better than you thought you might?
Well, it's a great question. I will say this, like I said earlier, there were a lot of my friends growing up that time went on to kind of lead negative, dark, disturbing lives, and have to go through a lot of therapy and a lot of programs to come out ahead of themselves. Whereas I actually feel like, this accident, being in a wheelchair, and I mentioned it in the book, sometimes there have been times in my life when I feel like being in a wheelchair has actually been the right thing for me. That I've actually been able to influence a lot of young people with disabilities. I've actually been an inspiration for a few of them. And I talk about a specific time in the book when I was asked to go to teach at a junior high school in New York. It was a popular junior high school that was geared towards kids with disabilities. And I know that when I was a young person with disability, I had no one to look up to. There wasn't anybody else in a wheelchair at the time who was popular, who I could say, hey, this person is in a wheelchair and they succeeded too, so maybe I can do something like that. I didn't have anybody to look up to. A couple of years later, I joined a theater company for people with disabilities, and there I met a lot of people in wheelchairs who I could look up to. But at the time, I didn't know anybody in a wheelchair who was doing successful things with their lives. And so when I went to go teach at this school, I taught kids with disabilities. Some kids were blind, some were deaf, some had crutches, many were in wheelchairs. But a lot of them actually looked at me and thought, hey, this guy is here, he's a teacher, he's doing something with his life, maybe I can, I would hear from them actually years later, that they told me I was the first person in a wheelchair that they ever met that actually gave them some kind of hope for their situation and led them to believe that they could actually maybe go on and do something more with their lives as well. So I think in a way, being a person in a wheelchair, I've met probably close to 1,000 other people in wheelchairs from all other countries who have looked at me and said, hey, you're doing something with your life. I believe that I can do something with my life too. So I believe in a way I've actually been an inspiration for lots of people with and without disabilities. So I take that as a kind of a sign and something I can be proud of. And I'm proud to be a person with disability. Did I kind of answer your question?
Yeah.
I did? Okay. I feel like I went off on a tangent.